Colour grading has always been something I've enjoyed, so I made it my goal this year to learn DaVinci Resolve Studio colour grading, and it is indeed an entirely different world. Today's video is sponsored by Dehancer. We're going to be taking a closer look at them later on. Just so you know, Dehancer have no say in my comments or my thoughts on this software. I have genuinely been enjoying using it and getting some of those finishing film textury looks, playing around with the different film stocks. Everybody's creative journey starts somewhere. I used to ask people as well, what LUTs do you use? Do you just use a LUT? Is that how you're grading your log footage? I used to ask people, oh, give me your LUT and then my work's going to look good too. And I do think it's necessary to go through those steps, but the thing that I want to stress is, as someone that has made those mistakes and has been through it, I see a lot of budding young freelancers or aspiring filmmakers that then refuse to move past it and actually then try and like skill themselves up. Now, of course, on bigger productions, you will have a dedicated colorist. And if coloring is something that you're not interested in, or maybe it's a part of the process you find completely dull and frustrating, that's fine. But I think if you're taking the time out to go and ask people, how do you get that look? But then you don't want to hear the answer, which is put in the time, the effort and the practice. Do it and do it again and fail again, and you'll get a little better each time. It's the same principle for, just about anything in life that you want to get good at. And I'm speaking as someone that, even with this base level knowledge of DaVinci, never thought I could get my work looking as good as it does right now. Big thank you to Dehancer for sponsoring this video. Now, we need to go meet my friend Arthur out in the beautiful city of Munich, do some location scouting, and hopefully you'll be able to shoot some nice frames together. Alright guys, here we are, welcome back. I'm back in the UK. You may notice that my hair has changed. That is because my schedule has been so busy that I've not actually had time to get round to the final portion of this video. And then, about 2 weeks ago, there was a point where I could finish this video, and because I'm a noob with OBS, I fucked up the screen recording, and so I had to do it again. I've just got back from Singapore. I'm about to fly out again in 2 days to Croatia for more work. I'm very burned out, but I'm very excited to finally jump in and show you guys what Dehancer can do. I have been introducing Dehancer into my own workflow, and it has been awesome. So I've actually done it on a couple of client jobs, also some personal projects I've been funding recently, which hopefully I'll be able to get those YouTube videos out soon for you guys. If not, no worries, who gives a fuck? No one fucking watches my videos anyway. But let's dive into DaVinci Resolve. You'll see on my timeline here I've made a few selects of clips with good old Arthur boy. We were just exploring around Munich, so we've got this lovely clip here of him amidst all these lights and cars and stuff, and one that I was really proud of, this absolutely gorgeous frame, which I think we shot it around 135mm, so I'm really far away, and there was this huge run of flowers and grass between me and him. I've already gone ahead and graded these, so let me just show you real quick what's going on here. If we look at the first adjustment layer, you can see here's my node tree. I've disabled noise reduction for now just because, it slows down my Mac. But this is my node tree. I'm not going to go into this, but for anyone watching, if you are interested in this workflow, this is how I've been learning DaVinci Resolve. I cannot recommend Mitchell Mullins' 1 hour course enough. I've watched it a few times through now. It's what I've been using for revision. It's what I've been using not only to learn how to grade in DaVinci Resolve, but learn the why and the how. Anyway, link down below. Definitely highly recommend. That's a great starting point to go. It's been just a highly valuable resource. So we're going to go through a couple of different ways to use Dehancer here. First off, let's take a look at this clip of Arthur stood amongst this street with all these lights. We've got the cars driving by, there's lots of colour, there's lots of bloom. I was shooting using my Cine Bloom filter, hence why all the lights have been bloomed to fuck. And this first workflow with Dehancer, this is more of a baseline workflow, a very simple workflow, and I want to demonstrate this to highlight how easy it can be to dive in with this software. You can get as broad or as granular as you want, and I believe the reason Dehancer wanted me to show off how I use it is because I'm not an influencer, I don't have a large following, and I am still very much on my grading journey. I'm not a colorist, but they want to demonstrate that this software can be used by just about anyone. So this first workflow is going to be a sort of one and done, a drag and drop. So here you can see I've disabled my noise reduction node. We'll just ignore that for now. Let's take a look at how simple Dehancer Pro can be. Just going to drag this onto our node here, and here we go. So just bear with me one sec. I'm going to disable certain starter features and we can start from the start and go through it together. So the point I want to make with this first workflow is very simple, it's very straightforward, it's drag and drop, and you can start getting some great film emulations for your work. Now Dehancer does have the tools to do a Rec 709 conversion. Obviously, if you're doing like an in-depth grade, this wouldn't be the way you'd do it, but for demonstration purposes, this does a more than good enough job. So once we drop it onto our footage, let me just give you a quick overview rundown. If you look at all these little drop down menus here, you've got film developer, film compression, expand, print. We've also got additional tools such as grain, halation, bloom, film damage, film breadth, gate weave, overscan. So Dehancer do offer certain elements of this at a much cheaper cost if there's only certain emulation elements that you are looking to implement into your own workflow. This is the full kit that they offer, hence why there's, you know, a dozen and a half drop down lists. I'm just going to take you through how much we can implement and stretch this without having to deal with any other grading tools. So the first thing you want to do is go up to input. Let's jump down to choose camera, and this way we can select our profile. So I shot on the Sony a7S III, great camera, and I was in S-Cam at 3.cine. Okay, so this is our starting point. Straight out the gate, the conversion that they do, no offense to Sony, but I have the official conversion LUTs, and I feel like straight out the gate I don't even get this accurate an image. I think that already is looking really good. So let's have a look at our temperature here. To be honest, I'm looking at the white on his shirt and I can cool it down a little bit, but I don't want to cool it down too much because then the blues in the sky become a bit too crazy. But then we can also sort of like offset the green with the purple there. Oh, that's looking good already. Cool. Okay, I'm going to leave defringe alone because quite honestly, I don't know what it does. And now we can start looking at our film stocks. The thing I want to draw attention to here, I think the two most important elements to this software are here with the film. So this is actually you picking your different film stocks. And then the print. Let's take a look at some film stocks. So I'm going to enable this already. And as you can see here again on this drop down list, there's a massive amount. And I'm just going to have a look through different film stocks until I find one that I like. That is really nice, you know. Astrum color negative. And the push and pull exposure values here just helps you dial in the look with regards to how the highlights and the shadows are treated. I want to keep it quite flat. I'm not going for something too contrasty here. So let's go with Astrum color negative for this first one. Jumping down to the next list, we've got the film developer. Again, I'm just going to enable this right here. Make sure you enable it. It took me longer than I care to admit to remember to do that. And again, you've got contrast boost, things like that. I'm not going to go too crazy with it. Gamma correction, color separation. Again, I'm going to kind of just leave that alone. And then color boost, obviously, doesn't quite work like saturation does. I believe it works more like increasing color vibrance, but we're going to actually pull back. So about there. Jumping down to film compression. I'm sure you all know what that means. This is going to be the way we compress like the different levels of the film that we're working on. So like we can, if we increase this white point, for example, then we're like crushing and flattening the highlights and giving it that damaged sort of washed out, almost imperfect look. And we can control how much that impacts as well. I'm going to pull it back because I kind of like how the specular highlights roll off on the ground there, and I don't want to lose them too much. So then on the flip side of film compression, we've got the expand tool. To be honest, for this particular shot, maybe I'll increase the density of the blacks, and then I'll kind of leave the whites alone. To be honest, for this particular clip, it's not that essential for me, but that's something you could use again if you needed to like deepen those blacks and brighten those whites. There you go, the opposite of the compression. Now on to the print feature. Now what does the print feature do? Let me tell you. In Dehancer, the print feature emulates the look of different film and paper stocks, allowing users to simulate the final stage of film development, which is optical printing onto paper or film. It mimics the characteristics of the analog printing processes. Now we've all learned something. Of those different print emulations, the one that I've been using the most so far, just visually I've been resonating with it the most, is the Kodak 2383 print film. I don't know why. It seems to do to my work something that my eyes agree with, and my brain and my heart. So I'm just going to mess around with these sliders a little bit, see where the target white is. I'm going to dial that in, see how we're sort of like losing the luminosity and the neutrality on Arthur's shirt there. I feel like that kind of blends him into the scene better. Exposure, we all know what exposure is, don't we? Let's dial that back down again. Tonal contrast, I'm going to flatten that out because again, we don't want it to look too contrasty because, you know, film. Color density, this one's kind of nice, you know. Ooh, gosh, look at that. I'll tell you what, and we're going to take a moment now, halfway through the process. We're just going to do a little before and after. So if we come up to our bypass button here, click that. There's where we started. Think about this. This isn't the long workflow where you grade your footage first and then you throw Dehancer on. This is the quick fix workflow. And if we hit that bypass, look at that. We are just getting some mad looks. And the last thing I'm going to do is just desaturate it a little bit. Maybe that's a bit too much. There we go. Now the color head, as you can see here, is what would be kind of like tint sliders. So we've got from yellow to blue, magenta to green, and cyan to red. So again, we're just dialing it in. Again, I'm going to try and blend a little bit more warmth on that shirt there. I want to give it that sort of nostalgic look. If we pull the green there, that's looking kind of cool. And with the cyans and the reds, yeah, I think I'll pull a bit of the reds out. God damn, that's looking cool. Then those tones can be adjusted specifically in the highlights, midtones and shadows. So first thing first, I'm gonna pull more of that into the highlights and the midtones. I'm trying to get more of like a uniform gloss across it in terms of color, as opposed to everything pops in it in like a really contrasty way. I'm trying to get it more uniform. There we go, now we're cooking. Okay, and then that's it really. Like from here, you just get certain emulation tools. So we've got some film grain, so let's turn some film grain on. If we go to 8mm, obviously, like that's way too much. Although it does have a certain charm to it, I'm not gonna lie. It does kind of look cool. And if we come up all the way to 35mm, that's more granular. Another thing that I haven't really mentioned much, which I'm gonna show you really quickly using the film grain tool, is each one of these drop-down lists has its own preset. But as you'll see at the top here, we also have custom. And it's getting really granular at this point, but you can go into custom settings for almost every one of these drop down lists. So here you can see I can affect the size of the grain, the amount, the resolution, the shadows, midtones, highlights, the chroma, the film type. I mean, to me, that's far too granular. So for the purposes of this first one, I'm just going to choose 35. Let's go into halation and let's go into custom. Now real quick, I've done a strong example here, but I'm going to turn it on and turn it off. And that will demonstrate what halation does better than I could explain it. So here we go. This is with halation off, and here's with it on. So it takes any of those areas of highlights and almost emphasizing the bloom effect we already achieved with our Cine Bloom filter. I'm just going to dial it in a little bit. See how we get this nice fringing, especially around the catch light on Arthur's head. That's super cool. Blue compensation, we'll drag that down. Control the overall impact. Then coming down to bloom again. I'm just going to do a very quick example, and what that does is it sort of diffuses the highlight elements, so it doesn't bloom them out, but it's almost again as if you were adding an extra layer filter over that sort of made everything a bit more smeary and misty. The point being to achieve this imperfect look of film. Moving on to film damage, so it adds very subtle film damage textures. You can sort of see them dotted about. If you follow my mouse here, like see that white slit there, so as you play it'll sort of give that like crackly effect that film has because film gets damaged. I'm going to turn mine off, I don't really want that. Then we got film breath. It makes subtle frame to frame adjustments on things like contrast, saturation and exposure. So if we look here, if we go into custom for example, and let's just crank up the exposure, the total contrast, the color and the whole impact, leave on 100, you'll find that this button here, period, is essentially controlling the intensity of it. And if you leave it all the way down at 1, let's take a quick look at that. See how it gives that like film flicker. Again, I'm not going to use it for this one, but that's what film breath does. Gate weave simulates the jitter of film motion. Again, I'm going to leave it for that one. Overscan, I am going to use the Super 35 137.1. I think that looks really good, man. It makes me so happy. Let's bring that up a little bit, the scale of it, just so we get those rounded corners. It's so simple and it kind of come across a little gimmicky. The important thing with any tool such as Dehancer Pro, or anything you're doing in the realm of cinematography or filmmaking, is just shoot for purpose. Because of the time of day we've shot at, because we've used a Cine Bloom filter, then a lot of these effects, even if they are a little on the heavier side, don't come across as gimmicky to me, because we've got this foundation that allows those features to complement what we've already shot, as opposed to it just feels like, you know, if we were just slapping a LUT on top of footage, and it kind of just felt like a cheap gimmick. Like even the fact that I've shot at night and so the image is naturally noisy. I don't recommend you do that all the time, of course. There are many different ways you can use this tool, but in this instance, I feel like it's really working. The gate defocus, I see, so it softens those edges right there, so I think we'll leave that about there. And then after this, you've got vignette, which I'm not going to touch. Monitor for false color, IRE zones and stuff, which again, I don't need to touch, but it's a useful tool there to make sure if you work in professional work, you're not actually creating anything that isn't fit for television or movies, or, you know, isn't overexposing your values in a way where it looks unprofessional. The output, so after all is said and done, again, it's just like the intensity slider on a LUT will affect the total impact. I'm going to leave it on full because this is the look that I'm going for. And so start to finish with a little bit of explaining in between. For a quick shot that we grabbed while we were walking around, I can't believe how well that's turned out, and that is literally just a case of throwing on Dehancer Pro, getting stuck into all the features, and dialing in the look to where it needs to be. Now, before we close out, I'm going to show you one more example, and this is going to be a little different. So we have this lovely clip of Arthur here. This was shot at 135mm. There's a huge field of flowers between myself and him. I was really far away, but I managed to find this gorgeous frame. If we jump into our color tab on DaVinci, I've got 2 adjustment layers here, and now I very quickly want to talk about this node tree right here. So this is my color grading workflow. My aim with this clip is to get a more flat, natural film stock look, and a lot more subtle. The last one was quite heavy, it was quite stylized, it was quite fit for purpose, but I think the way we're going to achieve this one is by taking a more disciplined approach. So with that in mind, we're going to ignore our input tab because we've done our input conversions on the grade adjustment layer below this one. And so we're going to jump straight onto the film stock. I'm going to start looking through some film stocks. I kind of know what kind of color scheme it is that I want to go for. I just need to find the right, see, something like that is already looking pretty good. Agfa Chrome RSX2, yeah, something quite flat and warm, maybe something that brings out the greens a little bit. If I did have any feedback for Dehancer Pro at this point, is whilst you're sort of getting to grips with the software and the film stocks, it can become quite tedious to have to constantly do a drop down list, select a film stock, see how it looks, drop down list, and then go again. So if you look at where my mouse is, if you just add an up and a down button right there, you just cycle through them up and down. I think that would be really useful. Please take that on board, Dehancer. You did ask for my honest opinion. Okay, I think we are going to go with Agfa Chrome RSX 200. Bring up that exposure is a good starting point. Okay, let's have a look, see if we enable our film developer. I do almost want to go for not too much of a colour boost. See if we can dial it in with the colour separator. Bit of contrast. I'm actually going to pull that colour boost down. I went too hard on Arthur's skin there. I'm trying to look for that almost like low res, kind of Dreamcore style camcorder. So let's enable our compression. Bring up our white point. Our tonal range is looking quite nice. Yeah, we can pop that colour density up there. Adds a sort of nice weird unnatural blue tinge to the highlights in the background of the sky there. Going to keep those blacks quite nice and washed out. Let's go into our print. We're going to use the one that we liked earlier. But then also maybe for what we're trying to achieve here, it might be better to attempt something like that glossy is quite nice. And let's pump our exposure up again. Pull up that color density, pull down that saturation. Have a quick look in the color head tab. Just make that nice and green. And then just boost those reds ever so slightly. Again in the highlight tones. We can make those look super unnatural and yellow. I do think that kind of blends in a little better, so I'm going to leave that there. The mid-tones, again, looking a little too cool, so I'm just going to pull them to the right, and the shadows tones as well. Beautiful. Bit of film grain. I think, again, I'm going to go with just something very subtle, so if we go down to 65, happy with that. And then let's have a look at our halation here, go into the custom, and just find our source limiter. The more you drag it to the right, it's going to dial it back and less of the image is going to be affected by it. So I'm going to pull it to the left, pull down our source limiter, maybe slightly just above the full bottom. Our background gain can come up, our smoothness can come up, our local diffusion, that's a little too much. Let's have a look at the global diffusion, but we can then control that. Wow. It looks like Arthur's staring up into some heavenly void, but we're going to bring the amplification down because I just want a subtle amount of film damage there. You can even affect the hue. I like it to have a more reddish hue, so I'm going to actually pull that to the left. And then blue compensation, again, pulling that to the right. I'm trying to lose as much blue as we can. And finally, the impact. Oh, this is looking very dreamcore-y. Once again, we're halfway through. We're just going to do a quick on and off on the bypass color grade tool. See how we started. And where we're getting to, this is looking wild. So let's have a quick look at what bloom can do for us. That's already looking pretty good. If we go 8mm, obviously it's a stronger effect. If you go more towards things like 65, 70mm, it's a weaker effect. I might go back up to my halation, pull back the impact a little more. Look for film damage. Again, I'm okay for film damage. I might play around with film breath this time. Just have a look how that goes for us real quick. No, I don't think film breath is really achieving the look I want, so I'm going to turn it off. Gate weave definitely can help us. Yeah, look at that. Gate weave's definitely got something going for it. I kind of enjoy the effect that gate weave can do on the footage, especially when it was a static shot. I might even pull it back a little bit more using the value sliders, or the numerical value sliders as opposed to the actual like visual UX slider. That's crazy. Such a subtle change, but to me it completely transforms the feel of the whole image and it really ties a lot of it together. So our overscan we're going to leave for this one. Do I want to bring in a bit of a vignette? I don't know, but let's find out. If we feather it less, we increase the size. Okay, yeah, I'm happy with that. And there we have it. We have a very dreamcore-y style shot of Arthur just exploring a spot in Munich. Wow. So let's take a look at this is our initial grade. So here is our clip. There's our initial grade. And look what Dehancer Pro has been able to do for us. And there you have it. Thank you so much Dehancer Pro for trusting me to do some kind of a demonstration on this. And so to close this video out, here's a couple of instances I've used Dehancer Pro recently in both my client work and my personal passion projects. Thanks so much everybody for watching. I will be back at some point in the next 5 to 10 to a million years. Quick question, leave down in the comments below if you got this far. How the hell do people maintain keeping up a YouTube channel posting once a week? I do not have the time or money to do that. Peace.